All right, Merriam City Council, 6:47 p.m., September 23rd, 2024.
I wear readers. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, well, people do wear those. Oh, yeah, I know, yeah, yeah. Currently on stage, so maybe, yeah, I'm supposed to. No, not anymore.
No, no.
Well, I really call you.
Yeah, yeah, we get called quite a bit.
Hey, Randy, what's up? Howdy. Well, check the agenda, see if there's anything I got to comment on.
And he's like, yeah.
So, yeah, we get called.
And I'm like, oh, that's all. And I already noticed from my, I used to be able to be like, oh yeah, I can. My arms aren't that long. No. And this is big. See, and I like this. So when I'm reading, I'm taking them off. So yeah, for each read, but he just. Yeah. He needs super tiny. No, so we're up, like, I'm taking them off, I'm putting them on, but I can't wear it. Although I told him.
ADUs, the accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
I'm in favor of it.
Because it's empty lots.
Well, because if it's somebody's land, then I'd like to say they can generally do what they want on their land. But if they cause a nuisance, they can get sued.
Yes.
I'd say it would be good to maybe ask them strongly to notice their neighbors of their impact, so they have a chance to have dialogue. But I don't think the government will stop people from building some silly shed or a second house if they haven't had
That's
time.
it.
What's interesting is I searched the entire code of ordinances for Merriam. There's a webpage for it. You can browse it page by page. But I found a way to download all of them. It has like 571 pages. And nowhere in there use the words ADUs or accessory dwelling units. So they were not banned by name.
Right. I think every side, because every city, I know Shawnee is different, they have their own little group of things too. Yeah, if you read it.
I talked to you.
Why?
They let Shawnee just go to the night celebrate prayer on Sunday after church and do all the business. That's what they did for 40 years.
Ryan told me was that our codes limit one dwelling per lot. They just don't use that word ADU to talk about.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they would need to allow it if they choose to.
Yeah, because you can't even have.
He's got 6 lots.
It's very strict. Merriam prevented me from building stairs on my back deck on my
That's
house.
what I was getting ready to say.
I have no choice but to leave through the front and fire.
And if the fire's in the front,
Then I guess well,
jump out the window.
I can break the window, I guess.
Right, but it's
I'll
still,
survive,
that's not the
but
point.
Other folks might not.
Yeah, that's all.
Was there, we got duplexes right across the block.
Yeah.
We've got big tall ones. Way out some
You don't need stairs for those.
They need, oh, they don't have.
Huh.
You got jump from them. Between now and nothing's quick. Especially the wild.
Years. So all of their lawyers are probably Sorry, baby. Name?
Yeah, that's right.
They would hire somebody like that.
But it's not.
Which one did you like?
Yes.
Same here. Within the last year.
Oh, really? Been here 7 years. I grew up in Shawnee, right across the street.
Oh,
We retired.
No.
We both retired. Find something to do.
yeah.
You might find out.
Hey, Billy, how you doing?
Outstanding.
Good, good.
Hey, we just started here.
Which one?
Anyway,
Oh, okay.
we're right on top. Right before you get in.
Yeah, we're on just north of Johnson and Knox.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, it's good. See what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All you do is throw it out. I've been
Are you from Oregon?
My daughter lives there.
Nice.
My doc, oh, it's your doc.
Well, you know, our daughter lives there.
Yeah.
She's been there 10 years. Years, something like that.
What part?
Well, she was, been all over, she's been in Astoria, she's been
Your doc's story, he moved up to, Warrington, which is across the river. And then moved from there, walked to Washington, which is about 20 minutes north of Astoria.
So there's no property tax, there's no income tax.
Now, there's no taxes there because, well, all the
One state has
marijuana they sold,
is sales.
their kids get to school for free, and they can go to school.
College?
All great, great, all great. No, all you have to buy is your books and, you know, your, but their fees and stuff, they don't pay the fees.
They don't have a person.
You're, every year, every 2 years. Every 2 years, you have to pay them. It's a beautiful place to live. But you don't want to live there.
It is
It
beautiful.
rains. But now they moved about 3 miles south of the store to a place called Seaside, which is tourist. Beautiful place here in Seaside.
Very pretty. Yeah.
Never in Seaside, we're in Seaside, we're in Seaside. We saw, I went out a couple of weeks ago. The Wizard, Practitioner Show, you know,
Yeah.
that's really cool. You can keep it together all day long.
Yeah.
And, they have school there, they teach kids like myself, they can, like, and they run. They go down around that hill, I gotta go in there.
Not me, man. I like
Fly to the Portland to see all the orange people. Up and down the highway.
Naturally very.
Okay, according to the clock, it's time to say the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Payne.
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Here.
Councilmember Hans.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Lahey.
Here.
Councilmember Ryder.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yadrich.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note, when you make public comments, be limited to 5 minutes. We did have a sign-up sheet. I have Mr. Cronin on here, but you're going to be speaking or would like to talk about ADUs, I understand. So,
Correct.
that one will come up a little bit later in the meeting. Just don't let me forget. It doesn't preclude anyone else from coming forward at this time. If anyone has anything else that's not on the agenda this evening, and would like to speak to that subject to the council, please come forward now. Anybody rushing for you at once? See if I come forward. Okay, well, we will close out the public comments at this time, and we'll call the vote forward a little bit later. The next item up is the consent agenda. All items listed under this heading are considered to be routine by the city council and may be enacted by one motion. We may now start with discussion of these items as the council members so request, in which case that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. We do have 3 items on the agenda this evening. Does anyone want any of those 3 removed? See nothing left. All right. Well, I would entertain a motion for that. Okay. Well, Mr. Summers, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council approve consent agendas numbers 1 through 3.
Okay, a motion, do I have a second? Ms. Henson.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hans.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Lahey.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is the mayor's report, and I get to actually talk about a proclamation this evening, one of my favorite things. This particular one is special to me because it's dealing with Fire Prevention Week. Some of my favorite people in the world are firefighters. Let me read the proclamation, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it, and I'll present this to the chiefs over there. Okay, whereas the city of Merriam is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, in homes or where, excuse me, where people are at the greatest risk from fire, and whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, smoke alarms, make them work for you, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to ensure smoke alarms are working in every home. Now therefore, I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week. I urge all people in Merriam to install smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside each separate sleeping area, and on each level of the home, and they test smoke alarms once a month. Change alarm batteries yearly, and replace smoke alarms every 10 years. per the manufacturer's recommendations, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Overland Park Fire Department during Fire Prevention Week 2024. Claimed this 23rd day of September 2024 by Merriam. I also get to announce, and I'll bring it down in just a second, that there's a fire prevention open house going to be occurring at Station 46, which is our very own station up here. And that will be occurring on Friday, October 11th, between 5 and 7 p.m. Right here at Station 46, at the top of the stairs in front of the building. It doesn't say, oh, we're going to be having like filet mignon or anything served. Oh, that's part of that. Let me come forward, and we have Chief Casey with us. We got Chief Long, Fire Marshal Casey, who's a chief too. Let me come out and present them.
Please don't.
Well, you chief, this is the fire marshal lawyer, this is, Chief, the two bald heads confused me there for a second, it was, but all right, Chief Long, Chief Casey, okay, all right. I can't see.
I'll have to get online and.
Okay, we're good, all right, thank you, all right. Just kind of an update to clarify that, they have smoke alarms now that actually have a 10-year lithium battery. So you don't have to necessarily change the battery if you have one of those type of detectors every year. But anyway, most of them don't have those, and we do recommend that. So, okay, other items for the mayor's report. I always like to take a little time to see things that's also been going on during the past 2 weeks concerning the city. I got to work with Jenna in producing a video inviting the public to either attend and or enter a vehicle in the Merriam Creek car show and car and motorcycle show. Got to put my 2024 Chevrolet Corvette C8 in, and it was the real star of the video because it had its own speaking part, a little throaty sound as I drove off. But anyway, evidently it must have worked because we had a record-breaking 353, I think, attendees at the event. I got to attend the Johnson County Wyandotte County Mayor's meeting that's hosted by Mayor Tom Stevens in Mountain Springs. Spent the meeting talking about issues that each of our communities are dealing with and about future speakers that we would invite to that meeting. I attended the Northeast Chamber Banters and Beer event and our very own strips chicken in beautiful downtown Merriam. Always good to eat with others and bring others up to speed on what's going on in Merriam. And the fact that you get these good food and enjoy a libation at the same time is always a bonus. I got to a special viewing of the Youth Crisis Center, for those of you who may not have seen that or heard about that, but that was just officially opened up. It's a great facility, obviously, as it suggests, it's for youth in crisis. It's right across from the juvenile detention center down there. And it provides housing and intervention for up to 3 to 4 days for those youth. And they have both mental health officials down there and teachers and nurses, and they work on addressing all the youth problems that they're experiencing that happened in the first place before they go back to their families. I and numerous council members either worked and or attended the Turkey Creek car show. Congratulations to Director Silver and all of her staff in our business community and our volunteers and everybody that worked so hard to put that event on. As I mentioned earlier, 303 entries, a record-breaking year. Our thanks go out to the gold sponsors. We have sponsors actually from the business community who give monetarily for the event, and they also give of their time and talent to put that on as well. I and the council member met with Mr. Engel, developed tonight's agenda. We had council members attending the art committee meeting. They're working on where to put the next art project, which is, if you read those minutes, which is available. There's several different locations that have been discussed, and I'm sure they'll pick somewhere nice. I was interviewed by KCTV reporter Samantha Boring about the Merriam Grand Station and the new businesses that are either already started down there or about to start up. So I kind of gave an overview of the whole project and kind of what the timeline and also talked about the impact of where it was going to be to our community. I attended the Johnson County Mayor's Luncheon. Mission Woods Mayor Robert Teets was our host that day, and again, when us mayors get together, we like to eat and talk about our community, so that's what we did. And that's really about all that I know that went on. If somebody has anything else that I missed, but I would like to talk about the upcoming events as well before our next meeting. And that's the Night Out Against Crime. It's going to be occurring on October 1st between 5 and 7 p.m. at the Waterfall Park down at 5191 Merriam Drive. And that's always, we always provide food down there for that as well. So it's good. It's a chance to meet with our police officers and find out about great things. And they have also some fun stuff in the best office world at that time. Tim Murphy Art Gallery opening Between the Lines exhibit is going to open on October 3rd, 7 p.m. at MCC. And Merriam Drive Live is happening on October 5th at the Farmers Market from 2 and 8 p.m. Food, drinks, games, bands will be playing, and hope to see everybody down there. And I'm sure there's still volunteer opportunities that exist. I don't know, maybe we covered? Oh, I guess.
We don't need as many for that event.
Don't need as many for that event. Well, I guess just come down there and enjoy the day then. That's what you need to do. But that's all I have for the mayor's report. Anything else? All right. Well, let's see what we'll go to next. Well, looks like first item up is council items. Let's consider a bid award to Kansas Heavy Construction for the Quail Creek Heavy Repair Project. Oh, there we go. Rick is here to talk to us about that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. During a creek inspection, Public Works crews observed some gabion baskets on the Quail Creek north side of Advent Health that were settling over time. So we retained BHC Roads to design improvements. The improvements include replacing the gabion, repairing and replacing the gabion baskets, removing and replacing a sanitary sewer owned by JCW that has its crossing right there by the, of course, right by the wall. And then because we're accessing the site through Advent Health, there's site restoration, including sod, replacement of trees, and an asphalt path that they use for exercise. So we submitted bids. We sent out bids, and 5 contractors submitted bids for that in September. Kansas Heavy Construction was the lowest and most responsive bid for the base bid and the alternate bid. The base bid included replacing the gabions with new gabion baskets, and the alternate included replacing the gabions with block wall. And the price for the alternate bid was the lowest, which is replacing it with the wall, which is good for us because it's less labor, less expensive, and a longer useful life. So Kansas Heavy has done a lot of work in Merriam. In fact, they have 2 projects right now, the Mill and Overlay as well as the 50th and England project. So we're looking forward to them. They understand our requirements and they do a great job. If the bid is approved tonight, they should be ordering materials and hopefully start at the end of October and be done by the end of December, depending on the weather. And JCW, they've been a great partner, so they will reimburse us for the replacement of the sewer. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So we have any questions for Director Conkey? Good, Ms. Ann?
I just want to understand how the residents will be impacted that are on the north side there.
There's 2 residents, and we've talked to them already, and we'll have to remove their fences and replace those. And there's a couple trees behind the fences that they're good with us removing too. So far they are, that one of them did notice that it's starting to settle, so they were concerned about it. So they've been really good to work with.
Okay. They have not reached out to me, so I'm delighted to hear you've been in contact with them. Thank you.
And we'll reach out to them, now that we have the bid and when we know, the schedule, we'll reach out to them again.
And the trees that are on the south side, Advent Health side, there are an awful lot of them. Are you going to just clear out just a few for access, or?
Yes, we told the contractor you can remove anything inside the creek because we really don't like the trees and that have grown up inside, but Advent Health wants us to replace trees on their side of the property, and so we've asked the contractor to really limit where they go in, so we're hoping to only replace 2 or 3 trees there.
Okay, and the trail in itself is not in very good shape. So
Right, but they wanted us to replace it,
the whole trail?
just where we cross.
Okay,
So we're
good.
really trying to limit where we come in and,
Good,
replace that.
because the whole trail is not in very good shape.
Yeah, and they have plans to improve it in the future, but they wanted us to go ahead and replace what we disturbed.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Director Cumsey? Okay, guess, I don't see any other in this particular item. I would entertain a motion from someone. It was hands.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a contract with Kansas Heavy Construction for the Quail Creek Gadian Repair Project in the amount of $251,157.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Good, Michelle.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Hans. Aye. Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Looks like the next item up is consider approval of a real estate agreement with Lawrence County Parks and Rec and Director Sullivan here. Okay,
Hi,
turn it over to you.
thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is a real estate agreement with Johnson County Parks and Rec. Back in 2004, when we were building the Turkey Creek Streamway Trail, we entered in an agreement with them to help us purchase land to make that possible. They took on the debt for 20 years, and with the agreement that once that debt was paid off, that they would turn the land back over to the city of Merriam. And earlier this year, JCPRD did retire the debt on the land, so now they're looking for us to take that land back and make it part of our official property. So there are several parcels. To make it simple, are you bringing that up for me? Thank you. Just to kind of give you an example and give you a better description, the parcel to the south that is outlined, that is between DS bus lines, and it's the trailhead right there at 55th Street. And then the properties to the north lay between Enterprise rental car and the soccer fields at Waterfall Park. For a better understanding of where that's at, that's where is located at, our piece of work. So when we put that piece of work there, we worked with JCPRD for their permission because it technically was still their land. So what they're looking for is an agreement to turn that over to us for a total of $10. It has gone through JCPRD's process and they have approved it. So we are just looking for your approval tonight for the mayor to execute that agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Sullivan? Any questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make it.
Okay.
Somebody else?
Please go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council approve an agreement with Johnson County Parks and Recreation Department and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
Okay, we have a second. Oh, okay. We have, let me call Ms. Ryder. You both have your hands up. I don't know who was up first, but, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hans.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like the next item up is consider an agreement to purchase fleet patrol cars and body cameras.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back in 2019, we purchased a brand new fleet and body cameras from a company called WatchGuard. The majority of the cost for that project was paid for in grants. We did not anticipate having to come back to council 5 years later and ask to replace those body cameras and fleet cameras. However, in 2022, WatchGuard was bought out by a competitor, Motorola. And if Motorola had just kept the WatchGuard line and just sold it as a secondary line to their line, I wouldn't be here. However, what they decided to do was buy the product and kill it. And therefore, we are no longer able to purchase replacement parts, cameras, or anything else with our system, forcing us to have to either buy Motorola's complete new system or go out and look for another system in order to keep our system valid. So we have, since 2023, knowing that that was going to be on the horizon, Major Brokaw has gone and done a lot of research. We went out to actually four different companies to do an evaluation of body camera systems, one being Motorola's, Safely, Axon, and Custom. Motorola decided they didn't even want to participate in the process. I don't know why. But Safely, Axon, and Custom did provide body cameras and in-car systems for us to test and evaluate, along with their backends that house the videos and the evidence management system that goes along with that. And after doing all that, it was determined that Axon was the better of the three systems that we had examined for replacement. It was our goal to replace that unit, or those units, in 2025. We put that money in the 2025 budget, which you all approved a couple council meetings ago. However, Axon has asked us to engage that contract in 2024. They would like to have that contract on their books in 2024 for 2025. They will not invoice or bill us until 2025. But if we engage that contract in 2024, we're going to be able to save the taxpayers about $57,000 in fees and costs. All we had to do was come up with $15,000 as a deposit to get that order placed. So that's what I'm here to do today, is to ask you for permission to go ahead and engage that contract in 2024 for purchase in 2025. The $15,000 will come out of the equipment reserve contingency fund. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Chief McLaughlin?
I do have one. So, other local police departments are also using this system?
Axon is, yes, we're several agencies in Johnson County, plus the metro area, plus throughout the United States. Axon is a big company. There are also the manufacturers that provide us our tasers, which is almost a monopoly in the United States as far as being able to purchase a taser type product. So they're pretty big. We're not as fearful of them being bought out like the WatchGuard company was. It had to be a really big company to buy out Axon to stay current. So that's another reason why we decided to go with them. You know, products we looked at were very good. Not as good as we think is the technology that's in the Axon and the customer service, but they're also very smart companies. One of them actually just started their body camera, and we think that they're more apt to be bought out. I don't want to be here in 5 years to go and again, hey, you know, guess what? So that was actually part of our decision making as well, to try to, you know, make sure we're in this for the long term, because the amount of money total being spent, for me, it looks like a lot of money. So I don't like having to be up here and go, hey, guess what, in 5 years.
Any other questions for Chief McLaughlin? Go ahead, Mr. Carter.
What do we anticipate the life of the cameras to be?
That's a good question. The way Axon does theirs, in 2.5 years, we get a refresh of all the body cameras. So, and then in another 2.5 years, so at the end of the 5 years, there's another refresh of all the body cameras. And then they replace all the fleet cameras at the 5-year mark. And so the fleet cameras are usually pretty stable. We don't have any troubles at all with the fleet cameras. Body cameras are more susceptible to wear and tear, because they're, you know, we're rustling around, getting thrown around with them and stuff like that. We generally lose, and I don't know about the Axon because we haven't had them yet, but generally we ended up having to repair or replace roughly 5 cameras a year. At the end of the 5-year contract, we're responsible for paying for those outright, and we budget for that kind of care and maintenance. During the course of 5 years, we break one, we send it in, they replace it for free as part of our contract.
With this type of technology, it would seem like 5 years are going to be obsolete, but.
Well, that's why they refresh you at the end of the 5 years, so they give you the most up-to-date technology. And then at some point after that 5 years, we re-engage with Axon, you know, if we want to start doing that whole process over again, but that's up to us when we decide to engage in that.
So you'll be back.
I I may be back depending on how long ago it is, but I'm not gonna be here forever, you know, I'm getting kind of long in the tooth here, so, you know.
Go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
What kind of contingency and quantity of cameras are we gonna get? Obviously, you would want some backups.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have extra cameras, so we have 11 of the fleet, cameras that's gonna be going on all of our vehicles, and then we'll have, purchasing 35 body cameras, and they give us an extra one on top of that, so I've done 6, so we'll have 20 cameras, and watch a few extra.
Perfect, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Lane.
Does the contract with Axon also include all the data storage?
Yes, storage is included.
How long is that storage kept?
It depends, so, 90 days is our default. We keep videos for 90 days if they're not marked for anything, i.e. a case or whatever. Then videos are kept according to what the statute of limitations for the case are. Some videos are kept forever, if they're like associated to a homicide or something like that. Once the case has been disposed of by the courts, then the videos can be deleted. So it's just fairly.
Any other questions with you? Well, any chance that Axon might buy out Motorola?
No way.
No comment. All right, I would entertain a motion.
Looks like you
Oh,
might
no,
have
wait a
it.
minute, no, he wants to talk about ADUs. Would we have some else with this?
Somebody else.
Yeah, come on forward, sir. Let's speak to this.
I'm back.
Yeah, give your name and address for the record, so you remember.
Rich Strickling. Need anything else?
And your address.
5906 Perry Avenue. Merriam, lovely Merriam, Kansas. I got out of Shawnee. I did have a couple questions for you, Chief. Is there a local vendor here that takes care of the Axon? Because according to the brochure I read, you're out of Arizona. Is there like a local shop where you can get your stuff locally?
Ship it, everything.
Everything shit. Well, it's like custom. I put the first custom system in. You had to go to Chinook to get everything. And I didn't know if this was gonna be the same, or if you had people that can work on your camera systems here, or do they have to come in from Arizona?
Now, with an initial setup, they'll come in to do the initial setup.
Any maintenance or anything like
Anything
that?
like that, we'll just ship it. If we have a camera that goes down, you ship it,
So they give me extra cameras for cars?
Yeah, Mr. Strickling, I've been advised by our city attorney that we're not to be discussing all this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep trying to make sure I got the same thing that I was reading about.
I understand. I
Okay.
apologize.
Sorry, guys.
On that, so. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Silvers, did you want to make a motion? Yes, yeah. Just go ahead, I'm ready, I think, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council sign a contract with Axon to purchase fleet and body worn cameras in 2025.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, go ahead, Ms. Showers.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, the next item up is discussion regarding accessory dwelling units. So we have Director Dyer to the podium.
Mayor, council members, Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. So we have a presentation on accessory dwelling units. This is in response to council's interest in ADUs and getting more information. There's potential possibility of requesting the planning commission to review the creation or draft ordinances to allow for ADUs in the city of Merriam. So exactly what is an accessory dwelling unit or an ADU? Well, Merriam, like the vast majority of communities in our R1 single family zoning, or all our single family zoning, allows 1 unit per lot. That's kind of in the very basic tenets of single-family dwelling zoning. And so an accessory dwelling unit is another unit that would be on that single-family lot, but it would be an accessory to the primary structure. Much like we have accessory structures like sheds, garages, child playhouses and things like that. So instead of a shed, it would be a dwelling unit. So up on the screen, there's examples of ADUs. Top left is an attached ADU. That's the little blue box there. That's where someone is taking an existing single-family home and they've added on another dwelling unit to it. The one on the top right, that's a detached ADU. That is probably what most folks, when they think of ADUs, that's probably what they see in their mind's eye. They see a separate dwelling unit that is smaller than the primary building, that is not attached to the primary building. So that's kind of what most folks think about when it comes to an ADU. And then the one on the bottom left is kind of a little variation on a attached ADU. So someone has taken a single-family home and changed part of the existing home, in this case, the area with the garage, into another accessory dwelling unit. So obviously these have been around for a little while. Staff has done a number of search. Myself and attended a number of sessions on ADUs, and just kind of some general things to know about ADUs is typically ADUs are construction is self-financed by the owner of primary dwelling units. What does self-finance mean? That means that the person who's built that dwelling unit, they have the cash in hand to build that dwelling unit. Construction of an ADU, while it is cheaper than constructing a typical single-family home, there's still a lot of fixed costs that go into that. With all those fixed costs, it's just providing the infrastructure to it. Even though it's maybe half the size of a regular home, it's still probably typically not half the cost to construct that home. So a lot of times the loan-to-value ratio on those aren't very good, so it's kind of difficult to get loans for to construct an ADU. And that kind of leads into the second bullet point. So typically ADUs are constructed by the primary dwelling unit's occupant for provided housing for a relative. You know, a lot of times folks have elderly parents that they want to provide care for, actually maybe a child that needs care, but yet still in their own unit to live in. So that again is typically what most folks are finding, that the reason that ADU is constructed. And kind of keep that second bullet point in mind as we go to the next slide. And then the last one, this isn't surprising, it's fewer requirements for ADU construction really is one of the main factors into promoting and encouraging folks to build accessory dwelling units. So obviously we do research and talk to our neighbors to see what they're doing in the ADU. So the communities listed up here are ones that have regulations for ADUs. If they're not listed up here, we couldn't find that they allowed ADUs. So real briefly, unincorporated Johnson County, they are allow ADUs in lots that are 2 acres or larger. Overland Park, ADUs are allowed in only one zoning district. The next set restricts them to large lot zoning districts. Prairie Village requires that the property owner occupy the primary dwelling and a family owner occupy the ADU. That kind of gets back to that bullet point in the previous screen here. And it also requires ADU be attached to the principal dwelling, and the city every 3 years reviews all those requirements for that ADU to make sure they're in compliance. Roland Park, again, kind of back to that, property owner must live in the property and requires planning commission and city council approval, and special use permit for the ADU. And then the last two, Olathe and Westwood. Their regulations are probably the most straightforward, particularly Olathe's. Very straightforward regulations, easy to understand and implement. So we talked to both those communities. In Westwood, since they've implemented ADUs, they've seen about 4 ADUs constructed. Primarily they have been for short-term rentals. And then Olathe, over the last 2 years, they've issued 2 permits for ADUs. So again, kind of as I started this conversation, the conversation was whether or not City Council, like the Planning Commission, will look at drafting ordinances to allow ADUs. Some points to consider if we did go forward to that. Kind of the first 2 bullet points really aren't up for consideration. There are things that would need to happen. A detached accessory dwelling unit would have to have separate utility connections, both from utility providers, primarily Water One and Johnson County Wastewater, and also on the building code side. It's very difficult, if not extremely prohibitive, to just simply take a detached ADU and plumb right into the existing sewer and water lines. So, that would be a requirement. And then also, if it is an attached ADU, so if it's part of the primary structure, it's gonna have to have at least a 1 hour firewall separation between the primary dwelling unit and the ADU. Then just some other ideas and other considerations is, we have an option of attached or detached ADU, and then one of the slides I showed kind of show the different ones. I will say from staff's perspective, the attached ADU, those are the inquiries that we get, again, probably 1 or 2 a year. Well, folks wanting to do an attached ADU, maybe they're building a new home and they wanna have another unit on there, or they have an existing home they're doing a major renovation on that they have, would like to put another unit on there. So the attached ADUs, again, 1 or 2 a year, but those are by far those are the majority of the inquiries that we receive on those. And also just some other things, ADUs be allowed by right in a single family district, an ADU be on the same lot or parcel as a primary unit. We require a relative to live in the ADU. Again, that's kind of back to Prairie Village. Can an ADU be a short-term rental? Again, we just went through, had short-term rental regulations, so these are questions that other communities are having when they deal with these things. Can a primary dwelling unit and an ADU both be rental units, i.e. would a property owner have to live in one of these units, or can they simply lease both of these units? Parking requirements and access requirements, ADU maximum size, there's obviously a minimum size kind of set by building code, but then there's also a maximum size to make sure the unit stays as a accessory, it doesn't get larger than the primary unit. And then ADU setbacks. Again, kind of back to the accessory structure argument, accessory, like an accessory shed, they can be within 7 feet of a rear property line, but the setback for a home is 25 feet in R1. So would an ADU, would it go with would it have to do it for the primary residence setback of 25 feet or a setback of 7 feet? Again, these are all things that if we were to look at doing ADU regulation, these are all issues that that the ordinance would have to address or not address. So kind of wrap it up, get back to what originally brought this conversation. I would just have a discussion with the council. What would the council like to do next? And obviously the option is to take this information, request staff to provide more information, or stop here at this point in time, so this isn't the time to consider ADUs, or to direct your planning commission to begin the process of drafting ADU ordinances for the purposes of having a public hearing at the planning commission. So that, I'd be happy to answer questions that the city council may have.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Are we going to hear public comment before discussion or after?
I think we would have our discussion and then we'll have the public comment on that before we take the vote.
Public comment should be made to the governing body, not to staff.
Right, but that is after we've had our discussion with her.
That is our general practice.
Yes.
And then also please remember, the public hearing, the real official public hearing, would be at the planning commission.
At which point they would be able to speak to the planning commission.
And at that point in time, there would actually draft ordinances for folks to respond to.
Yes. But finish your question.
I guess my follow-up question would be, can you move back to the slide of points to consider? I think that's a good place to start discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
So I feel like all your bullet points are very self-explanatory, but I did have one question in regards to utilities, because I think it could be somewhat prohibitive when it comes to sewer. So if you do, say, a detached unit, can the sewer, from what I think you already said, I think I know the answer, but can the sewer be connected to the home's sewer? So it has to have its own, which could basically cost people out from being able to do this, because we all know that that's very expensive.
Other questions for Director Dyer? Go ahead, Judge.
In anticipation of this, I was also looking at Kansas City, Missouri's ADU regulations. And I know we didn't see them up there, but they answer some of these questions in their regulations. And they actually say that the owner must reside in one of the 2 units. If they were to rent one or both, So they say if you're going to rent one or do an STR in one, you have to remain in both. They don't allow STRs in one, personally, which I disagree with. I feel like if we have an STR policy, we should include that in the umbrella of what we're doing, because that, again, to what Jacob has previously said, and I won't speak for you, but we already have that policy in place, and if it were to fall within the policy of what we're doing, that would take away a business opportunity from someone. And then I thought I saw a question on there about allowing only relatives to live in ADUs.
And that's an example of Prairie Village, if I remember correct. And it's also not just Prairie Village, but other communities throughout the nation, when they do ADUs, will also put requirements very similar to that.
Right, my question is, how do we define a relative?
So from staff's perspective, a lot of these things also become into, as you probably heard from me before, staff wants to have regulations that are enforceable.
Mm-hmm.
So staff has real questions of things like that.
Right.
And so we have real questions about just exactly those types of issues. We would find that extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to enforce.
Okay, lovely to hear that. And I think that may have covered it. Oh, and then parking feels, I mean, we have enough issues with space at parking in our city. And I feel that like that, touching that is something that feels too difficult and enforceable when I think about enforcing things as well. I'm not a fan of parking minimums regardless. So that's where I sit on a lot of these things. I'm thinking about the LA version of a casita or something like that, where you have this little, guest house or pool house or something like that neighbors can visit or you could rent out. And I know it isn't a silver bullet to housing affordability in Kansas or in the metropolitan area, but it does provide relief for people, and it can be an option. So I'm done.
Any other questions, Director? Go ahead.
Are you looking for direction on some of these issues at this time?
Actually, what staff's preference would be, if the council wants to move forward with these, if any of these issues, as Councilmember Yoder, if there's any of these issues that you really have a strong feeling for, yes, but if not, what we always try to do, what staff tries to do, what the Planning Commission does, and the Planning Commission and City Council do a fantastic job of, is having that communication back and forth so that the the Planning Commission doesn't go down a path that you aren't gonna. So, don't say you need a response for any or all these issues, just if there is one of these hot button topics of, hey, yeah, we don't want ADUs to be STRs, it'd be good to hear that. Again, if there's making an assumption that there's gonna be these.
Well, I'm supporting doing the ADU thing, but I don't think both of them should be rentals. If one of them's a rental, it can be an STR, just let the normal rental but I don't think having two rentals in one property would be appropriate. That starts to feel like a duplex.
Bishop,
Yeah, I don't really have a response to any of this, but I've had a lot of residents in Ward 4 ask about converting their garages. And I'm just curious how that could, how that could, and I know I'm talking about building code, but I'm just curious. Is that opening another?
I will go out on a limb and say they would probably be better off starting from scratch.
Okay. I was just curious, just because I've had so many ask about it.
Because those garages were never built to be habitable.
Understood, but in our, in our building code, you have to have a garage if your house was built after a certain date, and so a lot of them are trying to turn, you know, them into apartments for family members, so that's just why I was curious.
So you're exactly right. In regards to if someone was able to convert a garage, not saying some of the newer garages that we've seen are quite nice, so it might be easier to turn that into, but they would still have that requirement to have one space as a garage. That requirement still be in place. So, i.e. if they turned a garage, detached garage into an ADU completely, they'd have to find a garage space somewhere else, like add on one-car garage to the existing primary structure.
But why, I guess, is my point, because there's a lot of houses in our city that don't have garages, and so I just, like, I'm opening a huge can of worms, I understand, but it's just questions that I had.
That requirement's been in the city code for decades, and it kind of gets back to the whole parking issue. Make sure that there's enough off-street parking, because that is one of the complaints that we get is about on-street parking.
Go ahead, Mr. Stewart.
So I kind of want to continue my conversation I had earlier and just had a question about utilities. And the reason I ask is this is an issue I brought up a couple times about what I was referring to as like mother-in-law suites. But it seems to me like it's going to be expensive regardless to build, especially a detached. And then if they have to have their own utilities, including sewer, in my mind, it becomes an issue of those who have and those who have not. So if you don't have the money to connect a detached building, or I'm not sure if the attached one still has to have its own utilities. Okay. I just didn't want to prohibit anyone who had family members that they had to take care of but needed a separate space from being able to take advantage of this, because it came down to whether they could connect to the sewer.
So again, that kind of gets back to the comment that the inquiries that we get are mostly and that's one of the, there's a number of reasons, but that is one of them right there, it's the utility connections.
Mr. Levy, did you have a question too?
I just wanted to say that I agree, I think we should direct planning to put together an ADU policy. I think, you summed it up pretty early on in one of your earlier slides that fewer requirements are more prone to encourage the development. I think we have a short-term rental policy, there's no reason to go above and beyond for this. Everything else that we just called out, it sounds like you're on the right track to make them as attractive as we can for people who want to exercise this option.
Any other questions?
Just,
at this point?
I'm gonna add the comment that I too think we should go ahead and ask planning commission to come up with appropriate policy. And I don't have a whole lot of hot buttons. I am curious because I can think of one space over on Lowell that appears to have been built sort of as an ADU. Do you have anything that's grandfathered in that's similar to? It probably couldn't be called an ADU, but I know they share the driveway.
Yeah, so Merriam does have, and we're not atypical from other Northeast Johnson County communities. There are some very unique situations just exactly like that, where there are homes that have been built behind other homes, usually on separate parcels, and are still single family and fit with the R1 now. That's not to say that there aren't some situations that stumble on, everyone, it's continued, still will stumble across some that folks way back in the day have changed some structure they had back in their backyard into one that, back in the day, maybe even before Merriam was incorporated, that's it like that. So I'm not saying there's not some existing ones out there, but the majority of situations like that you see, usually are what you do. Somebody has a shared driveway where the house is behind another house and one on separate parcels. So that's the majority.
But other than that, they are compliant with current building ordinances and codes.
Don't know about building
about
code, but
sharing
zoning codes, yeah.
utilities, that sort of thing.
Don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
That would be a Johnson County Witch Road
Okay.
question. Don't know that answer.
Ms. Wright. This way, Ms. Wright.
Yeah, I just had another question. I'm supportive, I don't know if that was clear, but I am. whenever, I've never been a part of this process, so when we direct planning commission to, you know, draft an ordinance, is there some sort of joint work session that happens, or like we did with some development projects, or is that not the case typically?
It depends on how complicated it is. I'm getting a feeling, that the council, if I'm wrong here, please let me know, the council wants some pretty straightforward, easy to understand, regulations that are enforceable and encourage folks. So with that in mind, I'd like to think that planning commission and staff can come up with something that will address a number of those issues that you all brought up. You guys give me some excellent feedback, so I appreciate that. So in this case, probably not, but if there comes up a situation where we bring you an ordinance that is completely, 9-day difference, yeah, we could definitely set up a study session. We've done things like that. A number of years ago, not to belabor too long, a number of years ago, staff had a raft of regulations that need to be changed in our zoning code, so we had a big work session to go through all of those, and it was a gamut of things. So that's an example of what it was. But again, I'm thinking maybe not for this situation, but if we need to, yeah, the planning commission is also.
I trust them all to be not, I trust that, I was just curious if there was any process.
I did want to add one thing that I think is important to point out, that when we talk about housing affordability in our community, that this will allow people to downsize and live with family, or live on site with family, and it's a housing type and scale that nobody builds anymore. So when people are trying to downsize and move somewhere to a 2-bedroom detached house, you cannot find new construction that matches that. So I think it's great. It's not gonna be for everybody. It is gonna be expensive, but it's an option that I think will serve the need for the right number of people.
Other questions? I see no questions this time.
I know you have a comment, so just before I leave the podium, just to remind that I do believe there is, if the city council does want to direct the planning commission review this, a little bit more about the process, you all just passed it. I have a motion to do that, and then the planning commission staff will work up a draft. Probably have a couple meetings at the planning commission. Staff will do a draft, provide the planning commission with their feedback, and then ultimately staff will bring to planning commission a draft ordinance for the planning commission to review and have the public hearing. So that is the opportunity for public comment, and then it comes to you all for those considerations. So that, thank you.
Mr. Crone, I think you're up. Name and address for the record, sir.
For the record, Billy Crone, 6633 West Street. Government should not stand in the way of a free people achieving the highest and best use of their own land that they bought and paid for, land that they pay property taxes every year to keep. I am a little disappointed that our ordinance had thus far interfered with ADUs in Merriam. I agree with a lot of what I've heard the council saying earlier today, that there's a lot of good points to them. ADUs reunite families, they lower housing prices in our community, and they allow our residents to generate some revenue. That's great. Those are all win-win-wins. I urge you to support ADUs with your decisions tonight and in the future, and to do so with the fewest possible restrictions. I saw a big list of bullet points up there that looked like somebody was trying to come up with every possible thing they could limit or restrict. Don't. Just let people build what they want to build, and I think that'll be great for the community. Thank you.
Mr. Crone? Okay. Well, at this point, I would entertain the motion to possibly send that forward. Okay, well, again, I don't know which one had their hand up first. Ms. Wright, why don't you make the motion, I'll let you second. How's that?
Sure.
Yeah, you guys report.
I move that the council direct the planning commission to draft an accessory building unit ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Yeah, we have a motion to second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like the next item up we have is community development update. And Director Darback.
Just a quick update, obviously the grant season is very much winding down, and it's kind of like a horse race. One's in the lead and suddenly the dark horse takes over. So, yeah, the residential exterior grant program was really in the lead and getting all its funds expended. It's a larger grant, so we have to spend more on there, but there at the last second, the sustainability grant program, which has a little bit less money, picked it by the nose. So, it was kind of interesting and surprising, but so we're really close to wrapping all those up. Another great year on both of those grants, so that was fantastic. Just want to also remind that we're already starting the process of the 2025 residential driveway grant process, driveway grant program. What that process is, essentially staff's out there driving the streets looking to see what driveways could possibly be part of the program, and then we'll be reaching out to those property owners. So already winding down 2024 and already getting 2025 underway. Then just one update on Merriam Grand Station continues to go as planned. It's already have some visuals out there and information on that. So their progress continues on pace, and they continue looking for hopefully a partial opening of the east apartment unit in sometime in late October. So that be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Lane.
Are there any trees left in the tree grant program?
That is.
Just curious. Any other questions? Yes, there are trees left. Okay. Well, thank you for the update. Okay. All right, well, looks like next item up would be August finance report.
Finance report's in the packet. This reflects our June sales tax numbers. June sales tax numbers are right where we want them to be. We're still recovering from a rough January, but our automobile sales tax are up, Merriam Town Center's down, but it's all pretty flat in terms of our city sales tax. County sales tax is a little bit down, so our use tax and public safety tax dollars that we share with the county, we're chasing those. They're down a bit. But all of the sales tax generated in Merriam is right where it needs to be. Happy to answer any questions you have about the finance report.
Questions, Mr. Engel? Okay, see no questions there. Other informational items, we had the minutes for the planning commission, also the public art committee minutes for our packets. So you may have any questions concerning any of those, if we need any of those directors to address, or see no questions for the informational items. Well, gosh, I think we have no executive session this evening, do we, Mr. Engel? So do you have anything from staff standpoint that you'd like to share?
Just echo your comments about the car show, fantastic event. I want to thank Julie for coordinating all those volunteers. She does a great job with that, as well as our park and rec staff and all of our volunteers. Also want to give a shout out to our facilities folks who had to deal with our burst pipe on Thursday up in the South Lot, and our fire department who were there at the ready to make sure that we were safe with our sprinkler system down. But a good job of staff on recovering from that and getting us back open by Friday morning. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Mr. Engel? Seeing no additional questions, I will entertain a motion this evening. Go ahead, Ms. Howard.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
We have a second for that?
I will second that.
Oh, yes, Ms. Hand. We have a motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Hey.
Hey, good job.
Thank you.
You're kicking me out. They shut me down. They wouldn't let me.
That was kind of weird.
I'm just trying to tell them the truth.
I supported what you said.
Yeah, I think, as long as people, they own the land, let them do what they want. Maybe a little bit of noticing requirement would be nice for those around them. They have a chance to talk to the neighbors, and I'm not saying they can't get sued if they do something stupid, right? But,
What ward are you?
I'm in Ward 4.
Okay. I brought this up to, I'm in Ward 2. I brought it up to, which